Hi, before we find out what happens next, make sure to give us a like and subscribe to the channel. It takes a second and really help us grow. Out of the story.
It came late, when the house was quiet and the city outside my window had gone still. A message, simple, almost shy, blinking at me from my phone screen. Hi. I hope it's okay I'm texting. Can I talk to you? Please don't tell Dad. I stared at the words, my thumb hovering over the screen, my heart beating faster than it should have. Zoe, my niece. The girl I'd seen only at holidays, birthdays, family events, where I was always the afterthought, the one they politely tolerated. And now she was reaching out. Not her father, not my parents, her. I typed back before I could second-guess it. Of course. What's going on? The typing bubbles appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I don't know where to start. It's bad. Can I meet you? I hesitated, not because I didn't want to, but because I already felt the weight of what this would be. Tomorrow morning, the cafe on 7th and Pine, 9 a.m. Thank you. That was it. I put the phone down, stared at the ceiling in the dim light of my apartment. Adam, my brother, the golden child, the one they sent to the best schools, gave the best chances, while I worked nights to pay my own way through school. The school I never finished because someone had to be practical, had to be responsible. And now his daughter was the one reaching for me. Sleep didn't come easy that night. I kept seeing that message over and over. Please don't tell Dad. Whatever this was, it wasn't small. And I knew, even before the sun rose, that everything was about to change. I didn't set out to be the forgotten one. It just happened, slowly, quietly, in ways that felt normal at first. Adam was older by 2 years, and from the start, he was the one they saw as destined for something big. When he aced his exams, they celebrated with dinners out, new suits, tutors to make sure he stayed ahead. When I did well, they smiled, said, "That's nice, Leah," and moved on. When it came time for college, Adam's acceptance letters were framed on the wall. They paid his tuition in full, sent him off with a car, an apartment deposit, a bank account to keep him comfortable. And me? Community college is a smart place to start, Leah, my mother had said, as if it were a compliment. And you can work while you study. It'll build character. I tried. I really did. Juggled classes and shifts at the grocery store, then at the diner, then anywhere that would help keep me afloat. But when the rent went up, when the car broke down, when the bills piled higher than my paychecks, something had to give. I dropped out, took on more hours, found a rhythm that kept me fed, kept a roof over my head. Meanwhile, Adam sent postcards from Europe, emails from conferences, photos of his polished life. At family dinners, he was the star. I was the helper, the one who cleared plates and asked about his work while they all listened with shining eyes. I stopped trying to make them see me after a while, and instead, I built a life no one noticed, steady, quiet, mine, until last night, until Zoe's message. And now all the years of being invisible felt like they'd led here, to this choice, this moment where I could decide what came next, and I wasn't sure what that would be yet. But I knew this much. I wouldn't let them write my part in the story anymore. The cafe was nearly empty when I arrived, the kind of place where the hum of the espresso machine filled the silences. I spotted Zoe in a corner booth, hunched over a mug she hadn't touched, her fingers knotted around the handle. She looked up as I approached, her face pale, eyes ringed with exhaustion I recognized too well. "Hi," she said, her voice small. "Hi, Zoe." I slid into the seat across from her. "You okay?" She gave a weak laugh. "No, not really." We sat in that quiet for a moment, the weight of what she wasn't saying pressing down between us. "I didn't know who else to call," she said finally, staring at the tabletop. "I'm sorry if it's weird. I didn't know what to do. I'm glad you called me." And I meant it. Zoe's shoulders sagged a little in relief. "Everything's a mess. Dad, he's not okay. He keeps saying he's got it under control, but he doesn't. The house, I don't think we can stay there much longer. The bills keep piling up. There's no heat half the time. And Mom? She left last month. I didn't tell anyone. I couldn't. I listened, heart heavy, watching this girl, this young woman, trying so hard to hold together a life that wasn't hers to fix. Have you told your grandparents? I asked gently. She shook her head. They wouldn't believe me. They think Dad's perfect. He tells them what they want to hear. And that was the truth of it. Adam had always been good at the surface. Do you feel safe at home? No, she whispered, voice cracking. Not anymore. I reached across the table, covered her hand with mine. You did the right thing, Zoe. We'll figure this out. Together. Her eyes filled with tears she didn't let fall. And as I sat there, I realized this wasn't about Adam. This was about her, and I wasn't going to let her down. We moved to my car after the cafe. Zoe too jumpy, too exposed in that bright little booth. I drove us to the park, where the trees still held the gold of late autumn, and we sat with the windows cracked, the chill air sharp enough to keep us grounded. Zoe kept her hands tucked into her sleeves, staring at the dashboard like it might offer answers. I tried to help him, she said at last. At first, it was little things, making sure the bills were paid, calling the utility companies when the notices came. But it got bigger. He started taking out loans, borrowing from people I don't even know. The house, I think it's in foreclosure or close to it. There are letters he hides, but I've seen them. I let her talk, let her unspool the mess she'd been holding in alone. He drinks, not all the time, but enough. And when he does, he gets, I don't know, mean, not violent, just not my dad. I felt my jaw clench, the old anger at Adam bubbling beneath the surface. And Mom? I asked softly. She tried, but she couldn't stay, not with the fighting, not with the lies. I don't blame her. Zoe's voice broke then, and I handed her a tissue, giving her the space to let it out. I'm so tired, she whispered. I just want it to stop. I nodded, my own heart aching. It will. You're not alone anymore. She looked at me then, really looked, as if seeing me for the first time, not as the distant aunt, but as someone who could help. And in that moment, I knew. Adam's house of cards was falling, and I was going to be the one to make sure Zoe didn't fall with it. I waited until the next morning to call Adam. I needed the night to steady myself, to let Zoe rest. She'd slept on my couch, curled under an old quilt, finally breathing easy for the first time in who knows how long. His voice was cheerful when he answered, too cheerful. Leah! Wow! It's been a while. What's up? Adam, I said, keeping my tone level. We need to talk. A pause, just long enough for him to sense something was off. About what? Zoe, and everything else. Another pause, longer this time. She's with you, isn't she? His voice dropped, the charm slipping. Yes, she needed a safe place. She's overreacting. Things aren't as bad as she's making them out to be. I closed my eyes, took a breath. Adam, I've seen the letters. She's not making anything up. We need to deal with this. That's rich, coming from you. You don't know the first thing about what's going on. You think you can judge me now, is that it? Because you've got your little business, your apartment, I'm not judging you, I cut in quietly. I'm trying to help her. He hung up. An hour later, the first call from my mother came. Leah, what are you doing? You're blowing this out of proportion. Adam's fine. He's just been under stress. And then my father. This isn't your place, Leah. Don't stir up trouble. Family supports each other. You should be helping him, not making it worse. I listened, let them say their piece. And when the calls ended, I stood at the window, watching the city below, the world going on as if nothing had changed. But everything had changed. Because this time, I wasn't folding. This time, I was doing what was right, not what they wanted. By nightfall, Zoe's things were in my apartment. A duffel bag hastily packed, a stack of books, a few framed photos she'd grabbed on her way out. She moved like she was waiting for someone to stop her, to tell her she was wrong to come. I didn't. I helped her settle into the spare room, the one I'd always meant to turn into an office but never quite had. She stood in the middle of the room, looking small, arms crossed tight. "Is this really okay?" she asked, voice quiet, almost uncertain. "I don't want to be a burden." "You're not," I said, unfolding clean sheets, smoothing them over the mattress. "Your family. You needed a safe place. That's what this is." She hesitated, biting her lip. "Dad always says no one wants extra responsibility. That people say yes to be polite, but they don't mean it." I stopped what I was doing, turned to face her fully. "Well, your dad's wrong about that. At least when it comes to me." Her eyes filled, but she blinked the tears back. "Thank you," she said, barely above a whisper. I gave her space, let her unpack at her own pace, and went to the kitchen to make tea. The apartment felt different with her in it, like it had always had room for someone else, and I just hadn't known it. When she came out, we sat together at the table, mugs warming our hands, the quiet stretching between us. "I don't want to get you in trouble," Zoe said eventually. "You're not getting me in trouble. With Dad, with Grandma and Grandpa. I know how they are." I smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Yeah, I know how they are too." And that's when I decided, no more playing by their rules. That night, after she went to bed, I stayed up, staring at my phone, at Adam's number on the screen. I could still hear our parents in my head, their voices layered with guilt, their expectations heavy as stone. I didn't call. Instead, I opened my laptop and started searching. School transfer processes, counseling resources, legal aid, just in case, housing options, in case we needed a longer-term plan. I took notes, made lists, sent quiet emails to contacts I trusted. Adam's voice echoed in my memory, his charm that used to work on everyone, the excuses that always got him off the hook. Not this time. This time, I wasn't going to let him talk me down, or talk me out of doing what was right. This wasn't about Adam anymore. It was about Zoe, and I was going to protect her, no matter what it took. Adam didn't call first. He showed up, late afternoon, just as the sun dipped low behind the buildings, casting the apartment in gold light. I heard the knock, firm and familiar, and somehow I already knew. When I opened the door, he stood there, hands in his jacket pockets, trying for casual. But his eyes were sharp, darting past me, searching. "Where is she?" "She's not here to be put on display," I said, stepping out and pulling the door mostly closed behind me. His smile, that practiced, easy grin, flickered and fell. "Leah, come on, this isn't your fight. This is family business. You've always had a way of making things messier than they need to be." I crossed my arms, kept my voice steady. "Zoe is my family, and she's safe here. That's what matters." He laughed, but it was hollow. "Safe? From what? From me? You really think I'd hurt my own kid? She didn't feel safe, Adam. That's enough." His jaw clenched. "You don't understand. Things got complicated. The business deals, they're temporary setbacks. The house, it's not as bad as she's making it sound. She's a kid. She doesn't see the whole picture." "Then explain it to me," I said, not moving, not softening. He hesitated. "I don't have to explain myself to you." "You're right," I said quietly. "You don't. But don't expect me to clean up the mess you won't admit is there." He shifted his weight, frustration simmering just under the surface. "I just need a little help, alone, something to tide me over. You owe me that much." That stopped me. "I owe you?" I said, voice calm but cold. "After everything? I worked for every inch I have, Adam. While you had doors opened for you, I built mine. Don't come here talking about what I owe." His mouth opened, closed. And for the first time, I saw it, the crack in the armor. The realization that the sister he used to talk circles around wasn't standing in front of him anymore. "Think about what you're doing, Leah," he said finally, voice low. "Family's supposed to help family." "I am," I said. "I'm helping Zoe." And I turned, closed the door, and let the silence settle. It started that evening. First my mother called, not with anger, but with that soft, sorrowful tone she'd perfected over the years. "Leah, sweetheart, what's happening? Adam said you shut him out, that you're making things harder than they have to be." I closed my eyes, took a breath. "Mom, I'm doing what's right for Zoe. You're blowing this out of proportion. Adam's under a lot of stress. He needs support, not more problems. Zoe needed help. I'm helping her. By turning her against her father? Her voice trembled just enough to make me feel like the villain. By keeping her from her own home? I stayed quiet for a beat. Mom, if you saw what I've seen, you'd understand. I see my son struggling and my daughter making it worse. She hung up before I could reply. Then came Dad, the next morning, his voice firmer, the disapproval clearer. Leah, this isn't how we handle things in this family. You don't air dirty laundry. You don't divide us. I'm not dividing anyone, I said, my voice steady. Adam's choices did that. I'm protecting Zoe. That's what matters. You're turning this into a spectacle. We're family. We fix things quietly. You should be helping your brother, not judging him. I let him finish. Let him say all the things they'd been saying to me my whole life in different words, different tones. And when he was done, I said only this. I'm not the one who broke this, Dad, but I'm doing my best to fix what I can. The call ended in stiff silence, but I felt no shame. Because this time, I wasn't shrinking under their disappointment. I was standing where I needed to stand. And Zoe? She was worth every bit of the storm. The noise from Adam and my parents kept coming, calls, messages, thinly veiled guilt trips that I stopped answering. But in my apartment, it was quiet, steady, focused. Zoe began to breathe easier. I saw it in the way she started eating regular meals, the way she slept through the night without jolting awake at every sound. We sat at the kitchen table together most evenings, laptops open, papers spread out. Okay, I said one night, pointing to the school transfer form on her screen. We finish this tonight. I'll handle getting it submitted. You'll be registered by next week. Zoe nodded, her fingers trembling just a little as she typed. It doesn't feel real, she admitted. Like at any second, someone's going to tell me I have to go back. No one's going to tell you that, I said gently. Not here. She gave a small, shaky smile. Thank you. I worked quietly in the background too, reaching out to a counselor I trusted, setting up an appointment for Zoe, calling a lawyer Sophie knew to get advice on protecting Zoe legally if Adam tried to cause trouble, researching housing grants in case we needed to move to a bigger place. Adam's mess was bigger than Zoe, but I focused on her. Because I couldn't fix him, but I could help her build a foundation. Little by little, the apartment felt less like a temporary refuge and more like home. And for the first time in years, I felt like I wasn't just surviving their choices. I was making mine. He showed up at my office. I hadn't expected it, though maybe I should have. The receptionist called me from the front desk, voice low. There's a man here, says he's your brother. Adam. I closed my laptop slowly, steeling myself. Send him back. When he walked in, he looked worn, the charm dulled, the edges fraying. But the old bravado flickered in his eyes, the kind that had talked him out of consequences all his life. Leah, he said, spreading his hands like we were just two siblings having a disagreement over dinner. Come on, this has gone far enough. I didn't offer him a seat. What do you want, Adam? I want to fix this. I want to fix us. His voice softened, practiced. I made mistakes, I'll admit that. But don't punish me for it. Don't let Zoe hate me. Don't let her get the wrong idea about her father. She's not getting the wrong idea, Adam. She's seeing the truth. He flinched, just a little, but he pushed on. I'm not asking for much. Just help me out of this hole. A loan. You can afford it. You're doing well. I can pay you back. I just need time to get back on my feet. I leaned against my desk, folded my arms. Adam, I'm not giving you money. I'm not writing a check so you can dig yourself deeper, but I will help. If you want real help, I can connect you to a financial counselor, a recovery program if you'll admit you need it. But I'm done throwing lifelines you won't grab. The smile dropped. His eyes hardened. So that's it? You're leaving me to drown? No, I said quietly. I'm offering you a hand, but it's my terms now, not yours. For a long moment, he said nothing, just stared at me. as if trying to figure out when I'd changed, when I'd stopped being the sister he could charm, or guilt, or shame. And then he turned and left, the door closing behind him with a finality I felt in my bones. After Adam's visit, the calls slowed. My parents stopped leaving long voicemails laced with disappointment. The texts from distant relatives faded too. The ones urging me to see reason, to keep the family together, as if it had ever truly been together. I think at some point they realized I wasn't budging, that I wasn't going to undo what I'd done, not for them, not for Adam, not for anyone. And honestly, the silence was a relief. Zoe and I fell into a rhythm. Mornings were quiet but steady. Breakfast together, walks to the school office where I helped her finalize her transfer paperwork, afternoons where she did her homework at the kitchen table while I worked beside her. The apartment felt lighter, like all that old weight had finally lifted. One evening, as we washed dishes together, Zoe glanced at me, tentative. I don't think I said it properly before, but thank you for everything. You don't have to thank me, I said. You've done the hard part. You asked for help. You're building something new. I didn't think I'd feel safe again, she said quietly. And that, more than anything, made every hard choice worth it. The family could think what they wanted. Adam could rage, could sulk, could pretend this was all my fault. But in this little apartment, at that sink, with Zoe beside me, I knew I'd done the right thing. The first truly quiet night came with spring rain, soft against the windows, the kind that made the city feel gentler somehow. Zoe was in her room, her music low, the light under her door casting a warm glow into the hall. I sat on the couch, tea cooling in my hands, listening to the sound of a life I'd helped steady. I thought about Adam, the brother I'd spent years trying to please, trying to prove myself to, always falling short in the eyes of a family that had decided long ago where I fit. And I thought about how, for the first time, I didn't feel small. I felt sure. The path hadn't been easy. There had been moments I'd wanted to cave, to keep the peace, to go back to being the Leah who did what was expected. But every time I looked at Zoe, at the relief in her eyes, at the hope slowly returning to her voice, I knew I couldn't. I had done what was right, not for approval, not for validation, but because it was right. The storm had passed, and as I finished my tea, the rain still soft against the glass, I let the quiet settle deep inside me. Because this wasn't the ending. It was the beginning of something better, something stronger, something ours, and that was all I needed.